When you're thinking about story structure, you don't necessarily have to go big picture to create a story that makes sense for you. And it's really easy to go to big picture and think about premises, log lines, story themes, problem and solution, all of those things. And that can be great and easy, especially if you're thinking about how to instantly know if your story concept is getting marketable. If you're sitting with an agent and talking across the table and they're saying, hey, what's the concept so I can think about it in 5 seconds. But if that's not the way your brain works, then it's not really going to help you to craft the story, and it's going to be more frustrating for you, and you're going to keep having to try to fit your brain into this mold of big picture, high concept that doesn't really make sense for you. And of course, me, Janita Polito, in addition to writing profoundly fun books in science fiction and fantasy, I also do love to help authors find sustainable success on their terms, which means if your terms are basically, I need to figure out things in a detail-oriented way, then let's do that instead and figure out a custom solution for you. And so when we're thinking about that, the first thing I would start with is saying, okay, so if the whole problem and solution plot-based thing is not working for you, is it something where you care about the characters more? Or do you care more about an element of the world building? Or do you care about more about a specific point in the story? Do you get a vision of a certain point in the story? And is that where you want to build your story around? And then we'll figure out things from there. And especially if the kind of person who has thought about this and is like, I just love doing the details, and I get a vision of these little details, and when I read a book I see the details and how they come together, but I'm not super into the big picture, my brain doesn't go there. You can actually structure your story from the details. And the way that you can do this is, first of all, you do have to know your story pattern pretty well. So you have to know the genre, the subgenre, how books in this kind of subgenre generally roll, so that you can use that pattern and create your own little content buckets and your own little details to fill in. So if you're trying to do something really crazy, unique, and break all of the trope rules and then also do the details, it can be a little bit challenging. But we're going to assume that you were all into figuring out your story pattern, the kind of story you're trying to tell, the genre that fits into. Well, then we can just go through and say, let's figure out the little details that story always has, and then let's help you figure out how those details fit with you. So for instance, if you're writing some kind of a crime story, we're going to look at that crime story and we're going to get some patterns already from that. We're going to look at some templates from that. And then we're going to say, okay, what are these little buckets you need for the story? What kind of protagonist, what kind of antagonist, what kind of inciting incident, etc. And instead of you having to think of those yourself, we're just going to collect data from those various areas, and we're going to help you figure out which of those data pieces makes the most sense for you, which of those puzzle pieces makes the most sense to you. We're going to put all those pieces together, and that's going to help you create your story from the ground up instead of from the top down. So you can absolutely do a story from the bottom up, and that is totally legit too. Hopefully this encourages you in your journey. I'm Janita Polito. Go forth and be awesome.